Hello students, welcome back. So this is in continuation with our previous session. We are still dealing with module 3, trading in stock markets. So in today's video, we shall be learning about a few concepts such as initial and maintenance margin. What do we understand by margin trading, and what are depositories and depository participants. So let's have a look at this first topic which I have given to you in the slide. There is something known as initial versus maintenance margin. Now, first of all, if you need to start trading with a brokerage house, so who are the brokerage houses over here? It can either be a discount broker like Zerodha or Angel Broking or Wisdom Capital, or again, yes, you have Motilal Oswal. So these are all some examples of brokerage houses, and you also have other forms of brokerage houses like banks who also act as stockbrokers like ICICI, HDFC, Axis Bank, SBI. All these are also examples of brokers. So if you need to start trading, the first thing that you need to do is you need to open 2 accounts with a brokerage house. So what are these 2 accounts? One is something known as a trading account. On purchasing shares, whenever you have to pay cash, that cash will go out of your trading account. And on selling shares, you will be receiving cash. That cash will get added or credited to your trading account. So this is the purpose of a trading account. There is another account which you will have to open. It is a demat account. So demat account is an electronic account similar to your email, where the shares are stored in an electronic form. And this trading account will have to be linked to your savings bank account. So if you're opening a trading account with a company like SBI or ICICI or HDFC or Axis, they will not. So you will be having a savings account with these banks. Now the same bank is also operating as a broker. It will be easier. So from your savings bank account, money will get transferred to your trading account, and vice versa whenever a purchase or a sale happens. So 3 main accounts which are needed for you to start trading is your trading account, which is opened with your stockbroker, a demat account which is also opened with your stockbroker, and a savings account. It may be there with your stockbroker if it's a bank, or if it is a discount broker like Zerodha or someone, it will be a savings account which is belonging to another bank, which you have to link both. So where does these concepts of initial margin and maintenance margin come into the picture? Now, if you need to start trading, you need to deposit an initial amount with your broker. So what account are you depositing that initial amount with the broker to start trading? It is in the trading account. So you deposit an initial amount in the trading account to start your trading. So that initial money which you deposit with your broker in the trading account is known as the initial margin. On the other hand, there is another type of margin, something known as the maintenance margin. So it is the minimum amount which has to be maintained in your trading account to continue your trading. And normally the maintenance margin will be lesser than the initial margin. So let's try to get this difference very clear. Initial margin is that amount which is deposited for starting the trade. Maintenance margin is that minimum amount which should continue remaining in your trading account to continue the trade. So it's similar. See, in case in a savings bank, you want to open a bank account, there is a minimum amount, right? Somewhere around 500 or 1000 will have to be deposited with that bank to open the account. Similarly, in a trading account, to open a trading account and to start trading, you will have to put something known as an initial margin. And in a bank also, they will not allow in a savings bank, they will not allow your bank balance to go down below a certain level. So they will say that minimum your bank balance should be 1000 rupees. So this is called as this is a minimum balance from the perspective of a bank. The same thing when you're talking about it from the perspective of a trading account, it is known as a maintenance margin, the minimum amount that should remain in your trading account to continue your trades. So whenever that minimum amount goes below a certain level, amount will be transferred from your savings bank, which is linked to your trading account. So this is the way in which the things will operate. So, and by the way, the amount of the initial margin, it will be established by the SEBI. So moving on, and the main purpose behind why initial margin and maintenance margin are called upon for is to protect the investors or the traders of the stock market. Have a look at the next point here, something known as margin trading. Many students tend to get confused with initial maintenance margin and this concept of margin trading. So let us just get these concepts clear. Margin trading, I think I had already spoken about this in the previous video. So you're trading, you're indulging in a trade transaction based on the money that you might have borrowed from your broker. So this is the way in which margin trading works. I'll tell you a situation where this concept of margin trading arises. See, you want to purchase shares, let us say worth 25,000. However, in your trading account or maybe even in your savings bank account or whatever it might be, you're having an amount of only 10,000 rupees with you. When you're having only 10,000 with you, how can you purchase shares worth 25,000? This is where the broker comes to your help. So the broker will give you an amount of, will lend you an amount of 15,000 extra. So right now you will be having 10,000 plus 15,000, a total of 25,000, which is the amount equivalent to the value of shares which you wish to purchase. So thereby, you are now having sufficient funds with you to execute the trade. Had the broker not extended a small loan over here for you, a small credit for you, you would not have executed the trade at all. But because of that amount lent by the broker to you, you're able to execute the trade. Why will the broker lend you the money? It's simple, for the purpose of gaining good commissions on the transactions that you do. Now, see, supposing, and also, yes, a certain amount of extra money also they might charge for the amount that they lend to you. So, see, supposing that money was not there with you, if the broker had not lent you money, you wouldn't have executed a transaction at all in the first place because you do not have sufficient money with you to execute the transaction. So thereby the brokerage would have missed out on brokerage charges. But since the broker has lent you money, using the broker's money and your own money of 10,000 and the broker's money of 15,000, you are able to execute the transaction of 25,000. If you book a profit on it, you'll obviously, whether you book a profit or you make a loss, you'll obviously pay commission to the broker. And in case you're facing a loss, the broker is not lending you the money free of, without any security like that, without any backup. You will have to deposit, you will have, the broker will be having access to some of the other securities which are there in your demat account. So they can always take over those securities in case you face any kind of losses. So this is the way in which the broker is protecting themselves protecting themselves against the investor based on whatever money they are lending to the investor. So for whatever money they are lending to the investor, they are having the already other shares which the investor is having in their demat account as a backup. So in case the investor is not able to repay the money borrowed from the broker, they will always bank upon, they will always annex the shares of the other shares of the investor, what they are holding in the demat account. So using those shares, they can always sell them or something and encash the money. So this is the way in which margin trading operates from the perspective of a broker. So what are the benefits of and the other features of margin trading here is, it helps the investor to encash on price fluctuations. As I had already told you, a share is there which is worth 25,000 and it has a lot of prospect for growth on that particular day. So obviously this investor can gain a lot of profits just because of the money that he has managed to borrow from the broker. So that is one advantage. And another feature of margin is broker will lend funds only to those investors who are indulging in intraday trading. So if you had looked at my previous video, you will remember what is intraday trading. Intraday trading is where you open a position and you close the position. That is, you buy some shares and you also sell off those shares within that particular day's trading time. So within that particular day's trading session is normally in the morning from 10 o'clock till 3:30. So within that trading session, the investor will purchase shares and will sell them off. Or if they are selling shares, short selling the shares first, they will purchase them later. So they do not take delivery of the shares over here because it takes 2 days to deliver the shares. But within 2 days itself, within that one single day, within a matter of few hours itself, the investor is squaring off the position by purchasing and selling and making a profit, or short selling and purchasing and making a profit. So this is one characteristic of intraday margin trading. So the broker will not lend funds in case you are planning to take delivery of the securities, or you're taking a positional trading position, or you're indulging in swing trading. In all these cases, the broker will not lend you money where you're holding the shares with you for more than a few days. Then the next thing, in case you decide to take delivery of shares, you will have to pay extra charges for the broker. And this margin money will be offered only by those brokers who are authorized by the stock exchange as well as by the SEBI. And it's also one more important point here is only those shares on which margin trading can be done, which the SEBI has authorized, only on those shares you can do margin trading. That is, you can trade based on borrowed money. On other shares, which is not authorized by the SEBI, SEBI would have said only, okay, XYZ company, if you're dealing with XYZ company's shares, you can do it based on margin trading. That is based on money borrowed from the broker. On ABC shares, you can do margin trading based on money borrowed from the broker. On another set of shares, let us say, for example, on a third set of shares, which may be it could be DEF set of shares. So DEF set of shares, DEF company, on that margin trading is not allowed. The reason is ABC and XYZ companies are extremely liquid. So these shares are having a high level of volume. So there are many people who keep purchasing and selling these on a regular basis. So it keeps moving hands. It keeps changing hands. So because of which you can be sure that even if you borrow money from the broker and you transact on these shares, there are a good chances of making a profit. There are some shares which do not see much of movement at all. They may be registered with the stock exchange. They may be listed with the stock exchange, but these shares, they do not change hands frequently. It is there with the market. It is there with one person only for a very long time. It does not change hands from that one person. So such kind of shares, the SEBI will normally not allow margin trading to happen. So thereby, you can indulge in margin trading only on those shares which are authorized by the SEBI. Moving on to another topic here, there are other parties also who deal in the stock markets, who help out the investors and the brokers in general. You have something known as depositories. There are two depositories in India, NSDL and CDSL, both floated by a different set of companies. NSDL mainly works for, it's a depository which works for the National Stock Exchange. CDSL is a depository which works for the Bombay Stock Exchange, BSE. So NSDL, National Securities Depository Limited, is the full form. CDSL is Central Depository Services Limited. So what is the function of these depositories? So depositories in general, the first function what they serve is, they enable the brokers to deposit their client securities with them. Now, what is the reason? They expect the brokers to deposit the client securities with them for a brief time at least. Now, the reason is the depository needs to keep a track of those securities which are moving in and out of the exchange. So thereby, the function of bookkeeping book entry and record keeping is what is facilitated because of the brokers depositing the securities with the depository. Another function of the depositories is something known as dematerialization. There is also something known as rematerialization. I will just get back to it in a few more minutes. First, let us see what is dematerialization. So dematerialization is where you're converting the physical certificates into an electronic form, into an electronic certificate. So there are a lot of hassles with physical certificates. Now, relating to the registration, there will be a lot of hassles. There may be fake certificates which are in circulation. Getting it registered in your name will be very time consuming. Damage can happen to those physical certificates. So because of all these reasons, physical certificates have been completely done away with, mostly done away with. And there is whatever physical certificates were there way back in the mid 1990s when dematerialization process had started, early 1990s, 1992 to 1995, like that. So at that time, whatever physical certificates were there, they were converted into electronic certificates. So depositories look into the depositing of or crediting these dematerialized form of certificates into the demat account of the investors. And rematerialization is another concept where sometimes an investor might want to transfer, might want to convert a dematerialized certificate into a physical certificate. So that conversion from a dematerialized form, electronic form, into a physical paper-based certificate is called as rematerialization. This is also a function which was facilitated by the depositories and the depositories participants in general. Then, yes, finally, you have an entity known as the depository participant. Depository participants are basically your brokerage firms with whom you're dealing with in your trading of shares. So if I'm dealing with angel broking, I'm talking about a depository participant. If I'm dealing with Zerodha, I'm again talking about a depository participant. If I'm dealing with ICICI Direct or ICICI Securities or HDFC Securities, I'm dealing with a depository participant. So what is the function of this depository participant is they act as an intermediary between the depositories and the investors, and they take an active involvement in the transfer of securities from the buyer to the seller. So whenever a person is, from the seller to the buyer. So whenever a person is selling shares, the depository participants takes the responsibility of transferring the shares from the seller. By using depository as an intermediary, they will contact the buyer's depository participant and transfer the shares there. And vice versa, it will happen. So for the perspective of a buyer, the depository participant deposits the shares in the buyer's account. From the perspective of a seller, the depository participant will withdraw the electronic shares from the seller's account and transfer it to the buyer's account. By way of, on all these transfers only, the depository, that is the NSDL and the CDSL, they keep a track of all these things. So they act as a watchdog, in other terms, on the way in which the dematerialized shares are being transferred from the seller to the buyer. So I shall be concluding the video with this note. Thank you.